Hey everybody, welcome back to the podcast, the Project Investigation Collaboration, which is the collaboration between two paranormal groups, the Veritas Project, with founder of the Veritas Project, Robert Curtis.
Hello.
And investigator Todd, that's me, Todd Boyer. And welcome to the podcast on resonating frequencies.
Yeah, this one we've been wanting to cover for a long time, but we haven't had the... Something else has always been
a priority.
A little priority, so we've had this one on the back burner for a while.
Right. And we also want to thank everybody watching on TikTok. Thanks for joining us live. And as always, we're going to kind of go back and forth and answer any questions. If you guys have them down here on TikTok, we'll answer those live.
Right.
And so yeah, this is one that we have discussed and we have seen most recently things about on TikTok and other social media platforms of new discoveries that people are coming across. So the general idea, and it's not really an idea, I mean the general thing is everything in the universe resonates at a frequency.
Right.
Okay. And if the right frequency can be found, amazing things can be done.
Right.
Right. So there's even thoughts that maybe if the pyramids were made by aliens, right, that they used frequencies to cut the stone.
Right.
Because they're such smooth, clean cuts that they use some kind of frequency knife to cut the stones.
Right. And then used some sort of device. You can see it in hieroglyphics where this person's carrying like an ankh-shaped device, and it actually makes the stones basically weightless. Yeah. So they're buoyant instead of heavy. And then they could push them where they needed to be, even though the stones were hundreds of tons, thousands of tons. Right. That it would take modern day devices to move it, but thousands of years ago, how did they move these stones? And they think that's part of it. Is that some sort of resonant frequency could make that granite or whatever heavy block into buoyant, so you can actually just push it with your hands.
So yeah, we're talking about literally splitting the bond between two atoms, and that frequency literally splitting that. Now, our first rabbit hole, right? So everything, all the atoms in our hand, right? Everything has a gap, right? Super microscopic gap between all the atoms in your hand. Obviously, the probability is very, 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 like, super duper slim, like quadrillions to one, that you could take your hand and go to set it on a table and your hand would slide through the table. Right. But I mean, that is a theoretic possibility.
Yeah, that was Tesla's, that was his thing, is that he wanted to see if you could make a solid object vibrate at high enough frequency that another solid object could pass through the first one, so that you could move something from one floor to the other like an elevator, but it wouldn't actually have any penetration of the floor. Right. So the floor would still be concrete, and then the elevator would go up through the building without ever needing an opening, basically.
Right. That's insane.
And then, of course, when the government heard that, they thought, well, hey, we could vibrate the wall of a vault. Right. And then walk into the vault, steal all the stuff, and then walk back out. So we don't want that to get out. Right. Right.
So let's start with like the basics of acoustics and vibration and stuff like that. So the very basics, we're talking obviously, sound vibrates in waves. Right. So acoustics is a big thing when you're trying to deal with the vibrations and the waves. You can use acoustics to figure things out, right? It's like a base building block. Yeah. So
we don't want to lose our notes.
Yeah, and I'll start bumping it first. So the first use of actual acoustics, the Greeks actually experimented with it in their amphitheaters and that kind of stuff. And you actually see that a lot now. There's actually a really big amphitheater in Colorado that's set in stone. It's huge, and you don't need any kind of devices to magnify the sound on the stage, because the way the acoustics of the amphitheater are, that all the sound comes all the way up to the top, and everybody hears everything perfectly.
The sound waves aren't distorted, so they go directly to the audience.
Yeah,
that was the idea with the Coliseum, is that it would carry the sound. You didn't need a megaphone to talk.
And you also, if you've seen those amphitheaters that have Yeah, Ty, exactly. She's at Red Rocks.
Oh, yeah.
And, yep, that's the exact amphitheater. So you've also where Ty said Red Rocks, which is the amphitheater there, and so you also see in these amphitheaters they have like a shell, like a half dome over them. That's so any sound that's going out the back will actually be reflected back towards the audience. It actually works like one of our studio lights. The light is reflected from the back and is shined forward,
right?
So that way you don't lose any of the light. And it works in that same way. Well, of course, light travels in waves.
Right, light waves.
So everything in the universe is vibration.
Yeah.
So, mechanical resonance, right, is something by Da Vinci. He observed the phenomenon in pendulums.
Right.
So, bridges and buildings are engineered to avoid resonance because of like wind and things like that. So they'll get this pendulum motion, and we'll actually talk about a very famous effect that came about,
right?
Which is the Tacoma Narrows Bridge. Now, do you guys remember, what was it, a Sony or Pioneer commercial?
Pioneer,
where the car's on the bridge and the dude's rocking out, and you see the whole bridge swaying,
twisting back and forth.
Okay. That happened due to that resonance frequency.
Right.
The wind resonance got it into a pendulum motion, and literally that bridge twisted and shook until it collapsed.
Until it broke apart.
Right. And that was November 7th, 1940. And they had literally just finished the bridge.
Right.
Like within a very short period of time. So it was a wind-induced oscillation, right?
Right.
And on the day of the collapse, the bridge experienced really strong winds. The design of the bridge was bad because of, like I said, the wind-induced oscillation,
right,
which caused the bridge. Now, it was a suspension bridge.
Yeah, and it torqued.
It literally torqued different directions until it absolutely collapsed.
Right.
Okay. It reached an amplitude of 2.5 meters, which is 8 feet, meaning each wave came in at 8 feet, torqued it out of alignment by 8 feet.
Wow.
So, and then, they tried to stabilize it, the best they could by tightening the wires and stuff like that, but it just, eventually the torsion just forced it to exceed the structural capacity of the bridge, and it absolutely tore itself apart. So, eyewitnesses described the collapse as just a dramatic event with, the roadway first rising and falling in waves. And then sections of the bridge began to break apart and plunge into the water.
Yeah.
So
as it failed, it broke apart. And then once the pieces that were just dangling weren't a part of the oscillation anymore, they just kind of swung and stopped. So there was a few of them that stayed intact, but the whole bridge fell apart.
Right. So then, obviously they made a big advancement in bridges beyond that point. So lesson learned, and once again, the power of waves.
Right.
And oscillation and frequency.
Yeah.
Just goes to show you that just simple wind oscillation can tear apart a whole bridge. If you guys, you can find that video out there.
Oh, yeah.
Because it went on for a while. It wasn't just a fall apart.
Right.
Like it slowly picked up and it just finally went to pieces.
Right. So a lot of people got out there with their cameras and recorded it.
And luckily enough, it gave enough time for people to get off the bridge. So, but the oscillation was so bad that there was cars stuck on the bridge, and that's what you see the video, a few old cars stuck on the bridge, from the oscillation. So, so then let's go into electromagnetic resonance.
Right.
Okay. So we're talking like, like Faraday, right, was into that. And he laid the groundwork for the understanding of electromagnetic resonance. And if you guys know what a Faraday cage is, I got you. A Faraday cage is basically, it's a copper cage that goes around something, and it doesn't touch the ground. It's not grounded.
Right.
Okay? And it will stop like an EMF blast.
Right, or EMP.
EMP, an EMP blast. So you guys don't. Thank you, Amy, for the hand hearts.
Yeah.
So it will not affect what's inside because the cage
carries
stops
it around it.
Yep. So, you have all that, so when we're talking electromagnetic resonance,
yeah,
RFID, right?
like the little chips.
Yep.
In your credit cards or your.
So that's electromagnetic. Yeah. MRIs.
The MRI machine.
MRIs. Right. That's how they work. You know,
right.
That's why you can't have metal or anything metal on when you go into an MRI. You know, they ask you if you have any metal or anything like that. Like I can't get an MRI anymore because I've got that metal in my ankle.
Yeah.
I've got, you know, plates and stuff in my ankle. So
when I had mine, I used to weld a lot, and I worked on airplanes. There's a lot of metal. I had a piece of metal in my eye for probably 15 years, and I could see it like out of my periphery, and it was annoying. And when I got my MRI done, the MRI machine actually pulled it out of my eyeball.
Oh.
And the doctor said that they didn't want to operate on it because it was so deep, you know. So now it's gone. And I was like, yay, thank you, MRI machine. Like, that was great. It actually pulled that little sliver of metal out of my eyeball.
Jeez, man, that just makes me hurt thinking about it. Oh, I have to say, I know you guys all love Bob's attire. We're rabbit holing. You got to love this whole, like, it looks like SpongeBob, but then it's got skulls in it.
Yeah, the whole thing is like different skulls.
Yeah, there's different skulls all over the place, and tiki masks and stuff, and Bob's hat. Gotta love Bob's attire. It's chilly down here. It's supposed to be 71 today, but it's chilly down here in the Linen Library.
I'm wearing my wool hat today because I'm cold.
Right. Okay.
Ouch. Yeah. It was cool, though.
Nickel says Bob's always styling.
Yay.
All right, so out of the rabbit hole, back to electromagnetic resonance.
Yeah.
So microwaves.
Right.
Your microwave works on electromagnetic resonance.
Yeah. The wave excites the water molecules and everything, and then that's how it cooks it. So the water molecules vibrate, and they create friction, and then that heats up your food, right? It's kind of cool. So the science behind that, you know.
So that's like, so if you want to reheat rice, the best thing you could do is add a little bit of water to the bottom.
Right.
And it'll excite those water molecules first.
Right.
And it'll turn it into steam and go back up into the rice, and you'll actually have really good rice. So
and that's why they say you leave your stuff sit when you bring it out of the microwave, because it's actually still cooking in there.
Right.
Because the water molecules are still excited even though the microwave is shut off.
Yep.
It just sits there for a couple of minutes and still cooks.
So do you know the story behind how that became about?
Yeah, the chocolate bar.
The chocolate bar.
Yeah, isn't that
so
crazy?
There was a scientist messing around with microwaves, and he was probably sitting there cooking himself and didn't even realize it.
Right.
He had a chocolate bar in his pocket, and the chocolate bar actually melted in his pocket while he was messing with the microwaves. And that's how the microwave oven came about, is they figured out that these microwaves could melt things.
Yeah. They took the magnetron, that's what they call that thing that emits the frequencies, and they wanted to encase it to make it safer so they didn't melt the records and their tapes and everything in the room. And then they found that whatever you put in there would be obliterated by the magnetron. So they were like, you know what you could do with this? You could cook stuff with it. So they started putting water in there, and it would flash boil the water that you put inside the Faraday cage with the magnetron in it. So then through that, you know, lowering the power of the magnetron, they found out that you could actually use it as a safe cooker.
And you do have to be careful with microwaves, because you just said something that's very dangerous. A lot of people don't realize. In a microwave, you can boil something without it boiling, and as soon as you move it, it literally, like if you put water in there, just water, it will literally, the water will flash boil the second you move it.
Right.
So it doesn't happen as much now with the microwaves with the turntables, because the water is moving. But the older microwaves without the turntables didn't have something to make the water move, right?
Right.
So it would just get super hot and excited, and as soon as you move that cup, it would and like almost explode.
Yeah.
So not only is the turntable to make, you know, get the cooking all the way around, but it's also a safety thing.
Right. It keeps the food so that the ions are in motion while they're being blasted with the magnet waves, the electromagnetic waves, so that way they don't cascade, and then you have, you know, basically a cold fusion situation in your kitchen. Right.
So they use electromagnetic resonance in antennas. Yeah. To boost wireless communication signals. So and then also they use nuclear magnetic resonance that's employed to in chemistry for molecular analysis.
Right.
I can't brain this morning.
That's so that satellite that they use, that the government has, that can detect exotic metals from space. That's how they do it. You know, they won't let you know that. In case you're ever wondering, you want to go down the rabbit hole, a good rabbit hole of the Lost Dutchman's mine. That is one of my pet projects was researching. I have an entire case of books about the Lost Dutchman's mine that I was in 2 years ago. And what happened was the government had this satellite they sent to the moon,
right?
And it would scan the surface looking for elements.
Right. And
one of the interns was like, well, couldn't you just use the LM sat to do that to the Earth? And they were like, what? What? Like, yeah, you could just scan the Earth and it would tell you where all the gold deposits were, right? Because that's what that does. It just tells you where elements are. So it would say, hey, here's a whole cache of this
gold. Nice.
So the dirtbags in the government scanned the Nevada desert and found the Lost Dutchman's mine. And then they built a road out there and sent a bunch of trucks, loaded it all up into their vehicles, and then hauled off with it. So,
wow.
Yep. So now, if you ever want to find where the Lost Dutchman's mine was, you're out of luck, because
it's empty.
you can Google Earth the road that they built out there,
right,
and stole it all. So, I wonder how much the government pays in tax to themselves for gold that they steal because they're low-life scumbags.
And the cameras go blank because we're talking conspiracy again.
Yeah.
So, rabbit hole. Before we started going live on TikTok, and we were actually discussing an element, or was that we were going? I don't think we were going live yet. We were discussing an element that the government doesn't want anybody talking about. It's the element that powers UFOs.
And what do they call it? The anti-gravity drive.
Right.
Right.
We started discussing that. We lost audio.
Yeah.
As soon as we started talking about it, we lost audio.
Yeah. You can go back to the podcast on YouTube, and I actually had to do a voiceover of it because it all cut out. And it wasn't just like the camera stopped recording or whatever. It was
the camera recorded. Like it just boop,
we
lost audio.
All the audio dropped out.
Conspiracy maybe?
As soon as I said, you can see it's funny too, because as soon as I said the word unpentium, boop, it just cut out, the audio just shut off.
Yep. It was kind of funny.
Which is funny because now they actually admit that unpentium exists, but now they call it moscovium. Because they waited until some scientist actually discovered it in the environment.
Right.
And then let him be the one. So now it's called moscovium. It's not called unpentium anymore. But it has the same number.
Right.
They just basically changed it.
A little bit, so they didn't have it.
So they could just so they could say that Bob Lazar was a nut. He's a conspiracy theorist. That just so they can say that.
Right.
Like, well, it was totally different when he discovered it.
Yeah.
Or when he blew the whistle on it, you know. Now that this guy discovered it in the lab, it's a totally different thing.
Right.
That's how the government works.
So let's talk about atomic resonance. Now, this is what they use for, like, atomic clocks, laser cooling, uses atomic resonance.
Right.
You know, quantum computing.
Right.
Like, all your big stuff. You know, Doppler, LiDAR, all that stuff uses atomic resonance.
Right. That's how all that advanced quantum physics, all that stuff works.
So the more we figure out about frequencies, it seems like the more advanced we get.
Right.
So isn't that kind of funny that we're talking about how frequencies could possibly build the pyramids and with an advanced culture, but yet the more we find out about frequencies, the more we advance in technology?
Well, if you
sounds like a cycle to me.
If you ever want to go down another rabbit hole that'll broaden your mind on this, look up the continent of Mu, and the kingdom of Tartaria, because those are two advanced civilizations that happened here in our history time, and the governments of the world covered all of that up, so that we would never know that the kingdom of Mu had flying vehicles in the teens, like the 11th and 12th century. They had flying vehicles. They actually flew from Mu to India.
Wow.
And talked to people about how they could advance their civilization, and ease a little bit of their suffering if they would trade with them for things that they needed in the kingdom of Mu. Then Tartaria as recent as the World Fair at the turn of the century, when they had all the nations listed on there, Tartaria was on there. So that tells you how
much the government covers up.
How much our history is always changing, you know, like 1984, you know, that history is constantly being revised. When you think that it's history, it should be written in stone, right?
No.
But it's not.
History is written by the victors.
Right.
I mean, that's literally, I mean, you know, that's literally it. History is written by the people in charge, right? Not what actually happened.
They change it to suit their needs, you know.
Sorry, a little thirsty this morning.
Yeah.
So
stuffy.
Biological resonance. Now we're getting into the fun stuff. So biological resonance, cochlear implants.
Yeah.
Is biological resonance. You know, it's utilized for people to be able to hear. Did I bring them in? I had thought I did.
Oh, your headphones.
Are you still down here? Maybe I didn't bring. Oh, yeah.
No.
Okay. Oh, here we go. All right. Biological resonance.
Yeah.
These are headphones that do not go in your ears. Okay. They go in front of your ear and vibrate your head.
They vibrate the bones.
And it makes the bones shake on the inside of your ear to produce the sound that you hear.
Right.
They don't actually produce sound.
Right.
They just vibrate. But yet it said they sound fantastic.
If you take the part of it that actually vibrates and put it up to your ear, it doesn't make any noise.
Yeah. Now, unless you crank it all the way
so
up.
It starts to rattle.
That you actually shake the headphone itself.
Right.
So yeah, these don't make a sound. That you
really
put them. You have to put them against your head for them to make a noise. So, and actually, we were talking about this last week when we were talking about making our bags.
Yeah.
That I had a pair of these and you had a pair of these. So,
they call that the Estes method, where you put a blindfold on, then you have earphones, and then you listen to the spirit box, and then you tell someone else what you hear, so that way they're not caught up in the noise. You know, they just hear what you say, and then it's more clear for their mind.
Right.
And then usually that person will be using the obelisk, and then the obelisk will say something, then you'll say something, and then they can put the two of them together and then frame a whole conversation about it.
Right.
But if you have earphones on, you can't hear anything other than the spirit box. But if you have the bone conducting headphones, then you hear everything in your environment and the spirit box.
That's why I love them so much. So let's talk about Tesla.
Yeah, my favorite.
Tesla, I wish that we could go back and figure out what Tesla
like his actual works.
Yeah. Because all of his works kind of disappeared.
Yeah.
So when we're talking about vibration with Tesla, he actually created a box that he could set up against a building.
Right.
And find the frequency of the building and make the whole building shake.
Right.
To the point of failure. To the point of failure. And we're talking box.
Yeah.
Like, we're not talking something, we're talking box.
And he said it was just a steel or iron box that had two pistons in it, and then he could adjust the frequency of the motion of the
oscillation.
Pistons. Yeah. And then once he found the wave, it could level the building. Is how much power it had. And the funniest thing about that is that all of that whole part of his logs, his books that he wrote about it, is all missing.
All missing. Yep. Yeah. All gone.
And the scientist that investigated that, right? The FBI hired a scientist to investigate. You'll never guess who that person is. Donald Trump's great grandfather.
Yeah. Go figure.
Right. So this poor scientist got a hold of Tesla's notes, and then was magically wealthy through some sort of weird coincidence, and then passed that wealth on to his son, who then passed it on to his son, who then ran for president. So, who recently got a $350 million fine and was like, "Get my wallet out. You want how much? How much is that? You got change?" Right.
So the machine was actually called the earthquake machine, or the Tesla oscillator, right?
Yeah.
So the concept was obviously resonating frequencies,
right?
Which is what we're talking about. And he had patents for a lot of this stuff too, and magically, the patents disappeared.
Right.
Right. So
you can thank Edison for a lot of that.
Yeah. So, and him and Edison at the time were like battling.
Well, because Tesla thought that he would create these devices to make humanity, to improve humanity.
Right.
And he had, his biggest thing was he wanted to do over-the-air transmission of power.
Yes.
So he could have a power plant, and then there would be no wires that would transmit the energy to like your phone, your car, your power grid, your house, anything, right, would all be electric, and it would all be free. And Edison and the government were like, how do you put a meter on the air? Right. And he's like, what do you mean? It helps everyone. It helps humanity. Like, we could have flying cars, we could have all this stuff. And they're like, yeah, but how do you put a meter on that? How do we charge people for that? Right?
Yep.
So then that's why, you know, everything at your house has a power meter on it. You have wires go into everything. You have to plug your phone in to charge it. You have to, everything is all about how much you can pay for the energy.
Right.
Where Tesla wanted energy to be free and for everyone.
Yep. So we're coming back full circle here. So along the atomic resonance that we're talking about is, you know, back to where we talked about, I think we're getting full of everything pretty much. I mean, so coming back full circle, once again, going back to resonating frequencies, we all resonate at a frequency ourselves, right?
Right.
And if you start to look, they find that frequencies, you know, will put you to sleep, and frequencies will put your mood higher, and that kind of stuff. Right. So do some research. You know, your favorite songs are your favorite songs for a reason.
Right, because of frequency.
Because of the frequency in the song and the tones, that it's something you enjoy.
Right.
You know, that
you resonate with.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly. So that's what we came to discuss. Now, we've seen some new stuff here recently of them using resonating frequencies to create holograms.
Yeah.
So that's a new one that they're coming out with. So just this whole, like I said, frequencies, the more we learn about frequencies, the more our technology advances.
Oh yeah, exponentially.
So it's just kind of quite crazy that
they found the spirit frequency, right? Where this guy started having his he was a scientist, and he found in his lab people would start seeing like spirits and shadows move out of the corner of their eyes. And then he started doing research on it and found out that it was actually the air conditioning unit put out this perfect wave that cascaded right where the desk was in the middle of the laboratory. And that frequency would make you hallucinate that you had interactions with a spirit, that you were seeing ghosts and all kinds of things. And he wrote a really good paper on it. There's actually on YouTube, there's a video about the spirit frequency or whatever the hertz of it is. But it's fascinating to think that wave can affect your eyes, and then your brain interprets it, and then you believe you're having a paranormal experience when it's actually just a sound wave.
Right.
Another scientist developed the helmet that they can put this helmet on and then use magnetism inside of your brain to manipulate different neurons, and then you could have what they call it the God helmet. Mm-hmm. You could have like this whole out-of-body experience, and there's no drugs involved. It's all because of magnetism in this helmet. Crazy stuff with that. And then we have quantum mechanics that we recently discovered, that you can use resonant frequencies to separate an atom and split the atom, and then the atom experiences the same
in 2 points,
in 2 different places. So basically what you could do is take this atom in this new environment, put it into a spaceship, and then go to the other side of the universe, and then apply magnetism to that atom, and the other
atom reacts
instantaneously.
Sorry.
Yeah. But the cool thing about that is basically it's like a walkie-talkie that there's no separation in it.
So eventually, like if we do get to a point of space exploration, we could have instant communication at the length of the galaxy because of the vibrating molecules.
Right, quantum entanglement is what that's called. That's unbelievable.
So, like I said, everything in the universe vibrates on frequencies, and that's why we wanted to bring that to you guys today, to get you guys thinking about it, and maybe send you guys down your own little rabbit hole and your adventure to find out what's actually out there.
Yeah.
And, you know, so...
do your own research.
Do your own research, and we thank you for joining us again on the podcast.
Yeah.
And remember, you can find us all at the Veritas Project and Artist Curtis on everything. And what we got going on here?
Somebody wants to join
live. Okay. So, all Bob's stuff, and then all my stuff is Investigator Todd. Yep. You know, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, like everything. We're on everything.
Yeah.
Some of it's not so up to date. How we doing on Spotify?
I haven't messed with it. I've been sick. I've been sick, and it's annoying, so I haven't done it.
So that's okay. We can come to that later.
Yeah,
we get some more. But you can watch us on YouTube. So, and a lot of you guys watch us here. So, I think we're good. I think we're we did have somebody purchase some merch.
Merchandise, yeah.
So make sure you go check out the merch. Where is that at?
It's at Teespring. It's called The Spring now.
So find it on The Spring.
You can search for the Veritas Project store, and it has the thing that says like the Whole Truth logo at the top of it.
And then you can now find Investigator Todd merch on Teespring. And unfortunately, he had it linked to his, but it won't stick.
Right.
For some reason,
so it's in the store. You have to just look in the store for Investigator Todd stuff. I had favorited it so it was on the top of the page, but for some reason it doesn't stay there.
Yep. So, oh well. If you want it, it's there. You can
I bought some great stuff. Thank you.
So, you know, if you guys want that stuff, it's out there. And once again, we encourage you guys to go out and do your own research. Yeah. And we want to thank you guys again for joining us, especially, you know, once again, our Philippines and Vietnam people. You know, we know there's a lot of you guys, and we thank you for joining us on TikTok Live. And remember,
stay curious
and find the truth, and we'll catch you guys next week on the podcast.
Yep.
Have a good week, guys.
Yep. See ya.
Bye.